Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to my channel Essentials of Management. Motto of this channel is to evolve high standards of the quality of the learning of the subject management science in general and that of environment, health and safety management in particular. So, we are continuing with the series Industrial Safety Management. Today we will have discourse 17, which is part 2 of the 3 parts of safe system of work. Here we will see about designing a safe system of work. In last discourse, we tried to understand what is the meaning of SSoW and why it is required. Here we will look into how it is to be designed. So, for designing a safe system of work, first you have to do the exercise of job safety analysis. That means you analyze your job or any job according to the safety angle. So, that is called as job safety analysis. So, it can be useful as a technique to help identify the hazards and corresponding precautions. So, how it helps? So, whatever the job you are doing, say any job is consist of certain tasks, certain actions. So, while doing that job, while carrying out that job, doing certain actions and certain tasks, you have to identify if there are any hazards in that sequence of the task and what corresponding precautions can be taken. So, this process involves breaking a task down into its components, steps. So, again further breaking. So, small actions you take into considerations, and for each step we identify the hazards and corresponding precautions. So, you go into the very details of the job from action to action, the sequence of action. This can help bridge the gap between a risk assessment and a procedure. A very important sentence that, okay, you have identified the hazard, you have assessed the risk, but what should be the procedure to avoid that risk? Either eliminate that risk or minimize that risk. So, you have to consider a procedure, maybe a safe operating procedure you can call it, so that you follow or you take into consideration the risk assessment you have taken. So, it is a sort of bridging a gap between what risk assessment you have done and what procedure you are going to follow. So, procedure is corroborating with the risk assessment you have done. So, what are the important considerations? The sequence of operations to be carried out. We have seen in the last, you break down the job into small tasks, your actions, and establish the sequence. The equipment, plant, machinery and tools involved. So, whenever you are doing certain job, you use certain machinery, certain plant, certain equipment and some tools. So, take into consideration what you are using while doing that job. Means whether you are using certain tool or you are operating certain machine or you are using certain equipment. So, that has to be operated or used by a person, a worker, isn't it, who is doing that job. The substance to which people might be exposed in the course of work. which substance or which material you are using, processing, maybe on the machine, maybe in the plant. Okay. So, and how the people will be exposed, whether that material is non-hazardous or hazardous, or if hazardous, how you are exposed, what are the route of exposures. The individuals doing the work, their skills and experience. You look into who is doing the job, whether that person is skilled person, experienced person, or whether it is a junior person, or he is not much conversant or experienced with the job. Because we have seen, when we saw the difference between the hazard identification and risk assessment. So, while doing the risk assessment, we consider the worker who is doing the job, whether he is skilled or unskilled. So, he is skilled, the risk is less. If it is not skilled, the risk is more. Foreseeable hazards, whether to the people doing the work or to others who may be affected by it. So, you identify hazard which you can see, and whether it will harm to the people who are working or the people around who are working there. Practical precautions which have been adopted which eliminate or minimize these hazards. So, what practical precautions you can take to either eliminate the hazard or minimize the hazard. The training needs of those who will manage and operate under the procedure. So, you have created a procedure, you have broken down the job into actions and tasks, you have established the sequence, and then you see what training is required for that particular person to follow that sequence in a given manner or according to the procedure. So, whether he is trained or not. Monitoring system to ensure that the defined precautions are implemented. So, very next important step is the monitoring of whether really the worker is following the procedure or not. The implementation part we will look into the next discourse. So, what are the 5 steps? Identify the activity, assess the task. We have seen that all aspects of the task and risk presented need to be considered. Identify the hazard. We discussed that. Assess the risk arising from each hazard. So, risk assessment is to be done, not only the hazard identification. Whenever possible, hazards should be eliminated to reduce the risk rather than rely upon a safe system of work. So, try to understand the difference. When you do hazard identification and risk assessment, the next step after risk rating comes that how you are either going to eliminate the hazard or minimize the hazard. That has to be done first. Mind well, when after doing that, after minimizing the hazard, still if you think that there is a certain risk, residual risk, which is also harmful, then you rely upon safe system of work. You don't adopt safe system of work directly before doing the elimination or minimization process. Those steps are compulsory, steps are to be taken. When I say safe system of work, that is the additional precaution to be taken while doing the job. So, do not confuse between elimination and that hierarchy of control and safe system of work. Safe system of work and hierarchy of control go hand in hand. Both of them are required. Please keep this in mind. Establish a safe method. This can be done verbally or by written procedure, or in some cases by formal permit to work. So, either the instructions are given verbally, there are instructions are very few or very easy to follow. So, verbal instructions are given. Otherwise, you write down the procedure. We call it as standard operating procedure, or in this case we will call it as safe operating procedure. Or if you want a very thorough and elaborate instructions given, then you go for the permit to work scheme. We will look into permit to work scheme after we complete this safe system of work. Okay. Fourth step is implement the system. So by just only devising the system or creating the system is not enough. The system must be properly introduced by ensuring that it is correctly communicated, understood and applied by employee. Okay, you have created the system, but how you will implement it? If you don't, then it is of no use. And while implementing, what you have to see is it is communicated properly to the people who are going to follow it. Not only communicated, but it should be understood that if I have communicated the procedure to a worker who is going to do that job, but he has not understood it, what is the use of it? After understanding, the question comes whether he applies it or not. So all the three steps are important, that the procedures of the safe system of work has to be communicated to the concerned people, they should be understood by them, and then they should apply it. So that has to be seen by the managers or the HODs or the supervisors on the shop floor. Monitoring the system. Monitoring means periodically checking to ensure the effectiveness of the system and to identify and any changes that may be needed. So you monitor it, you keep on seeing whether that is effective. So you check periodically about its effectiveness, and if you find or if you feel like that some improvements are needed, required, then you bring out that change, that improvement. Now these steps, implementation and monitoring, we will discuss in detail in our next discourse. So first is assessing the task, the first step. So again we are repeating the things, that assess all aspects of the task and its risk. So risk means hazard identification and risk assessment has to be done. Consider health hazard as well as safety hazard, means you have to consider both safety as well as the occupational health. Take account of what is used, means we have seen whether you use tools, machine, plant, equipment, who does what. So what actions are to be done by whom, where it may be an individual job or it may be a job done by 2-3 people. So who does what, where task is carried out. So what is the place of carrying out the task? That means somebody is working on the machine, somebody is working on a ladder, somebody is working at height, somebody is working in a confined place. So it is important where the task is carried out. Then how task is done. So what is the exact procedure followed, what are the tasks involved, what are the actions involved. Okay. So you take all this into consideration. Then second step, identify the hazard. So spot the hazard, whether it is occupational hazard or the safety hazard. Evaluate the risk involved. Where possible, eliminate hazard and reduce the risk before you rely upon a safe system of work. Again I am repeating that first you have to eliminate the hazard. If not elimination possible, then you carry on the hierarchy of control further. You minimize the risk either by substitution, engineering control, administrative control, and additionally PPE. So before you rely on safe system of work, you have to carry out all these things. Define safe method. So you define the procedure, method. Define orally or by simple written procedures. Create safety rules and regulation. So apart from procedure, you have to create rules and regulation. Display the rules and implement it. So you are taking all these additional precautions. So after procedure, you go for the rules, and then you communicate those rules to the concerned people, and you display it at that place where those rules are to be followed. Create regime of permit to work system. We just saw in the last slide that you go for permit to work after the procedure if you want the procedure to be very elaborate. We will look into permit to work system after we complete the safe system of work. Create a PPE regime. If possible, implement LOTO. We will also discuss about PPE regime in detail. We will discuss about the LOTO regime in detail in coming discourses. Create visuals like educative safety posters, caution signs, precautions, etc., and display throughout the site as and where appropriate. So this sort of a administrative control is also required, that you have the number of safety posters which one way or the other keep on having impact on the psychology of the people who are working there. You must have the caution signs that people will take precautions according to the caution signs, and try to display at the maximum places throughout the site wherever those posters, caution signs are appropriate. So wherever what is required, you have to display. Involve the people who will be doing the work. So their involvement is very important. Everywhere employees involvement, workers involvement is very important. Things should not come top to down. There has to be always a communication between top people and the people who are working under them, because people who actually work on the shop floor know better the job than maybe the people who are working at the top. So involve people who will be doing the work. Their practical knowledge of problems can help avoid unusual risk and prevent false assumption being made. So things will be more clear when you take the advice, or you consult with the people who are actually working on the job. So this is about the how the methods are to be devised, how they are to be designed. So how we design the safe system of work. So thank you friends for watching, and as I said, resume viewing further, switch on to discourse 18, where we will look into implementing and monitoring a safe system of work. Friends, please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Have a good day.